International Women's Day didn't start in 2022. It started some time back. But it would seem like the conversation around International Women's Day in Nigeria started last week. But let's get into all of that and among several other issues to raise on this matter this morning. As we have our guest here with us in the studio, Toyosi Akerele Ubushiji is an edutech entrepreneur. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
I don't know if it's okay to ask you, what's your take on International Women's Day?
You know, I always say that, and I think my thoughts are, very clear in the public out there. I often say that dedicating a few days to women in the year and then returning to regular programming for the rest of the year is simply nothing to me but tokenism. I don't see how speaking of these issues around women that affect women, a few days of the year, and then treating women as unequal members of society, changes anything. I read a really very sad story 3 days ago on the internet, where a young woman had put a child in creche, and the baby had returned, to the creche to pick the child in the afternoon, and the baby was dead. And it was shocking to see the amount of negative reactions, from Nigerians, blaming the woman for why, her child would be in creche in the first place. Rather than us speaking to the policies around the workplace, around the country, how society puts so much pressure on women. Women have a few months for antenatal, 3 months, which include pre, during, and even the postnatal period of a woman's life. These days, you have a lot of women contributing to, supporting their families. You have a lot of women, some of them are even breadwinners in their families. And rather than society saying we need friendlier workplaces, we need policies that allow women to thrive in the workplace, we need equal opportunities for women. And we need to understand that women face a different type of pressure. All of the blame was on a woman who just lost a child. And so for me, International Women's Day is inadequate, because we celebrated this day last year. And for as long as I remember, for every year I've been alive, we've had, International Women's Day. And then after today, life returns to regular programming. Male colleagues pamper their female colleagues at work today. People who wear and co at work and do this, make signs and use representative symbols. But tomorrow, a woman is still going to be paid lesser, for a job that she probably does better than a man in the workplace. She'll still be denied promotion for a job that she probably does better than a man in the workplace. You take the technology sector, for example. The way the world is being radically revolutionized by, technology, the highest paying jobs in the world are around data science, artificial intelligence, quantum computing, cloud computing, data analytics. Only about 25% of the women of the world are in those industries. In fact, about 2% of women of the world will tell you that they will choose technology as a first career choice. And about 50% of those women eventually quit their jobs because of the, various biases in the technology sector.
Now, this conversation around International Women's Day,
yeah,
isn't it supposed to be a conversation starter as opposed to an event on its own? It's supposed to, my understanding, is that when we iconize days like this, the International Day of the Girl Child, International Women's Day, and all those things, they're supposed to be conversation starters. And so when the conversations start, they're supposed to be sustained over a period until the lesson of that theme is already integrated into society.
I think what is more important is the institutionalization of the sort of policies that favor women. And when I talk about institutionalization, it's about the fact that you think about just last week, the legislative, component of Nigeria's government voted against everything that represents the interest of women in public service. And this takes me back to what I was saying before: product design, technology. An average seatbelt in a vehicle is not designed to favor a woman, not to talk of a pregnant woman. Protective gears in the medical space are not created, to favor women. In fact, research shows that 71% of women are likely to sustain more severe injuries in an accident than men. Because an average height of a human being is about 1.7 meters, but an average woman is not that tall in terms of body physique. So you think about, it's not just about conversations. It's about key policies and institution building that favor women. It's about thinking about these issues within the context of what exactly are the things that work for women and work against women, and how do we make it a culture?
That's the point that I'm making. That these days, they are conversation starters.
Correct.
And
that's why I call it tokenism, because it's simply to talk about it
no, it's
and
not
appear
just,
to be celebrating women one day.
I don't think the idea is to talk about it on just one day. Women who will celebrate this day are in all sectors of life.
Correct.
And they're in politics, they're in technology, in education, in everything. The assumption that I would have, and please correct me if I'm wrong, my assumption would be, for instance, this year's Break the Bias, hashtag.
Gender equality for a sustainable tomorrow.
For a sustainable tomorrow, right? So it's not just for today. So my assumption, and as I said, correct me if I'm wrong, is that when we are done with all the conversations today, we take the lessons, take the policies, and take them
What
home.
do we do with the lessons of the International Women's Day?
So essentially my question is, is it to say that these days, tokenism as it is irrelevant, is not effective?
Well, I won't say they're irrelevant, but I would say they are not as effective as they should be. And I'd say they're not as effective because if you're a CEO who sits with women, all right, you sit with women today in your organization to celebrate them, share coffee with them, talk with them, and then return to ensuring that those women don't get equal opportunities, they don't get equal pay. You are not an advocate, you're not a he for she. It defeats the purpose of sitting down with them today. We've had several International Women's Day behind us. What do we achieve with those International Women's Days? How many women have been given opportunities to, get into politics? Like I was just saying, we must not sweep this issue of what happened in the National Assembly last week under the carpet. Because you look at what the women of Iceland did. That's the first country that had a woman president in the world. The women decided to down tools. Over 90% of them wouldn't go to work. And that's how that country became the first country in the world to pass the law around equal pay. You think about Liberia. How did Liberia elect Ellen Johnson Sirleaf? Because on the days of elections, women took charge, seized their husband's voter's card, bought beer for the ones that needed to get drunk. We had boys who took a woman's underpants into the marketplace and were making jest of a woman, that a woman is not better than a menstruation. Okay. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf won that election because women came out. Women were given the opportunity. They weren't suppressed. Women came out and decided it was our turn. Now, this is a society that raises higher moral values, that raises moral values higher for the women. If one woman commits an offense, all women are not good anymore. But we forget that for every single woman who commits an offense, there were 1,000 men before her that committed that same offense and weren't judged for that offense.
The trick about this conversation is, I don't want it to look as though men against women.
We're having a conversation.
Exactly.
And I'm hoping that beyond this conversation, the people that should be listening to us are listening to us. And their consciences are being called to action, because that's what we need.
Now, you made a point talking about Liberia, saying that the women came out. And then there's women given a chance. Correct. There are two different things, by the way. I mean, you can step up to the table, and then they can call you up to the table. There are two different things. But, this, to be fair, I was thinking about it too. How many women's days have we had? I mean,
Mother's Day, Mothering Sunday.
Specifically this IWD.
Feel good things, nice to have.
The UN Women has championed this since, I think, 2011, since it changed from UNIFEM in 1967.
Correct.
So this is something we have always done, as it were, and it's only fair to sit back and review.
Correct.
How far have we gone ever since we started doing all of this? So let me try and simplify this, perhaps, and so that people listening can see where we are and where we ought to be. Don't forget, I talked about stepping up.
Correct.
I mean, going out, regardless of whatever. I mean, you talk about shattering that glass ceiling. It's not because they give you the hammer. It's because you probably pick the hammer or something and just shatter it. So let's try to, tick the boxes. First, what are the areas we need to work on? I know you've touched on some of them, but as Nigeria is today, what are those areas you look at and say, no, we need to do better here? I know we've talked about the legislators, but let's try to see if we can tick those boxes or otherwise.
May I just say that aside from the proverbial glass ceiling, there's a thick layer of men that stand in the way of women. Because if you look at the numbers in the House of Reps and in the Senate, if you had more women who had their voices on the table, and I mean, this is something that I always say that sounds funny. If you're not on the table, you're on the menu. All right? Now, if you think about just the sheer number of men who had the opportunity of putting their voices on the agenda, on those key subject matter areas that, were supposed to be debated on and voted upon, there were very few women. And, I mean, you even think about how many, when you put women in positions of authority, do you give them the autonomy and the independence to be able to deliver on the roles that you've decided that they should? I mean, you asked me a very important question. What are the things we should be doing? Number one, I think, first off, to guarantee global competitiveness and to think about how the role of women will come to the fore, we need, number one, we need more women advocating for more young women to be able to get into positions of authority, whether it is at work, whether it is in politics, whether it is in education. You need more girls going to school. Because research is showing that countries like Saudi Arabia, who are putting more girls into school than boys, are even getting adequate education, like they're experiencing more development than the countries that don't put girls in school, number one. Number two, it's important to ensure that in the course of advocating for women equality, we don't leave the boys behind. Because in training boys and in training girls, there's so many programs for STEM for girls, this for girls and that for girls. We forget that in empowering girls, we forget those girls are going to marry those boys who are going to feel largely inadequate because we're almost running a lopsided system. That's number two. Number three, we need to think about systems that do not sort of create unhealthy rivalry between men and women. One of my key policies as a woman who works in the private sector, who also sort of has some leg in the public sector, is to play like a man and win like a woman. You need more collaboration between men and women to be able to ensure that you sustain this relationship. So I saw that there was a lot of agitation around, the policies of the National Assembly last week to vote against this and vote against that. And my natural instinct would be, it's good, there's a place for protest, but there's also a place for negotiation. To go into the room and say, who were the key people that were supposed to, that had a voice, who passed this bill, and how do we go and sit with them to show them that your daughters are going to be beneficiaries of this system that you're building. As long as you have men who are the only ones who are shaping policies around what should happen to the women, you're going to have more girls. Your girls are going to grow up in school a girl gets raped in Nigeria and you are blaming the girl rather than raising the boys to be more responsible, rather than teaching them and handing them, and inculcating the right kind of values in them. Number four, you need to think about STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. Those are extremely male-dominated environments. And you find that when you put women in the room, you're not just doing you're not just promoting gender equality, you are promoting inclusivity. You are driving the conversation around, inclusiveness and diversity. And so even companies need to be shown. Private sector companies need to be shown that when you put more women in the room when you are designing your products, it is easier to target that audience because they were part of the conceptualization, from conceptualization to implementation to delivery to market deployment.
Yeah. So
women are likely to patronize a product that they feel is most beneficial to them because they were in the room when this product was designed.
I think when Kayode talked about ticking the boxes, it would be like like, okay, in what areas of life? You've talked about politics, you've talked about the private sector, which is, of course, in itself is wide. Perhaps we would also want to look at what professions. In the 5 bills, for instance, talked about different boxes that, should have been ticked. But we'll talk more on that as we further on this conversation with Malpa in Abuja.
Thank you, Ayo. I have the pleasure to host and introduce Madam Comfort Lapnti, who is the UN Women Country Representative here in our Abuja studios. You're welcome, ma'am.
Thank
and
you.
Happy International Women's Day to you.
Happy International Women's Day to you and indeed to all the women in Nigeria today.
Is this really a happy day for us?
Well, indeed. We must still commemorate the day, if only to draw attention to what the work that lies ahead that needs to be done. I would say that, yes, we have a lot to celebrate as women, because every day women are actually making phenomenal contributions in all spheres of the development process. So yes, we can celebrate the contributions that women are making to nation building, and that is significant. But at the same time, I think the importance of International Women's Day is that it forces us to shed light on what still needs to be done. And certainly in Nigeria, there's a lot more that needs to be done.
Well, your work is supposed to help countries who are formulating policies to try and achieve gender parity in their, I think, in their country, to help facilitate that and perhaps, work with them towards achieving the Sustainable Development Goals.
Absolutely.
If we were looking at a score, a rating of maybe 1 to 100, how would you say Nigeria is faring along the scale? 100 being the highest.
Well, I think it's mixed, because the presence and contribution of women is immense. Sometimes it's not even recognized and captured. If you take the economy, there are a lot of women in the economy in Nigeria, mainly in the informal economy, but they're making phenomenal contributions. But even in business, there are a lot of women in business. Now, the areas in culture, if you take the Nollywood industry, which is one of the largest income earning sectors of the economy, there are a lot of women doing great things. Now you come to politics. That is, and participation in public life. And that is where I think you see a big challenge, because, Nigeria right now is one of the lowest ranking countries. So, I mean...
we have the figures for that one.
Yes.
I mean, if we're looking at 100%, we're around 3.5%, and that's
4%. And that, so it kind of neutralizes everything else that is going on, that the achievements in other sectors. But I do want to stress, because it is a reality that women are making very important contributions to the development of this country. And there is need to create an enabling environment for them to do more. And that is why it's so important for us to have in place the laws and policies that will allow Nigeria to be able to reap the full benefits of the contributions that women can make to national development. So it's not just something for women. The benefits will be for the entire country. And I think that is where we need to get, and we're not there yet.
Well, the question because this year's, I think the hashtag is Break the Bias. We're looking at a sustainable future for tomorrow and beyond, perhaps. What would you say are some of the biggest challenges that you have seen the Nigerian women in the sector in the areas where you worked with them complain about?
So I think, this year's theme for International Women's Day really is gender equality today for a sustainable tomorrow, as you said. And really the emphasis is on looking at climate change and really trying to ensure that women are part and parcel in the leadership of trying to find solutions to climate change. If you take the fact that in the agricultural sector, women are the majority of employees in that sector, and that is one sector that is really vulnerable to the effects of climate change. You know the impact of that on the livelihoods of women. So in the sectors that where women are mainly found in agriculture, for instance, there is a real need for us to ensure that we invest in climate smart technologies and tools to be able to allow women to benefit and contribute more effectively to development in that sector. I think, yes, and even when you look at climate change, we still don't have many women around the table, and that is why, and it goes back to the issue of women's representation in public life, because if women are around the table where conversations are being had, decisions are being made about climate policies and so on, you would see that they will bring their perspectives to bear. So it goes back to the need to have more women at the decision-making table, because it is there that we can also ensure that they can influence policies that affect them. Things like droughts, things which are we are seeing more and more of, desertification, all of these factors which are related to climate change are impacting the lives of women, because they have the burden of unpaid care work. So a woman has to walk further to go and fetch water. And then she's exposed in doing so even to things like gender-based violence. So that's another issue. We already know that here in Nigeria, at least 1 in 3 women, and that's officially, report having been a victim of some form of gender-based violence or so on. So, those already pre-existing inequalities get exacerbated if we are not addressing the issues of climate change and also women's contribution to finding solutions to this. So decision-making, addressing gender-based violence, and really trying to ensure that women have the space to participate in the economic activities of the country. Those are all, I think, priorities that women consistently highlight here.
Well, you've talked about how women need to be around decision-making, but some people will argue that climate change affects us all. And that perhaps if at the end of the day we're even able to get women's voices heard, it might not be the women who are directly affected by these issues that might be at the table for a host of other reasons, perhaps education becoming a barrier, and whether there'll be questions as to whether women at a certain level are also in touch with women at the grassroots. Those are the kinds of questions that might come up at the end of the day. How do you intend that the women who are really affected by these decisions, and there are women, there's also those kinds of arguments around what just happened at the National Assembly, where a lot of bills concerning women, equality, affirmative action, etc., were not assented to. There were those kinds of arguments that there were fears, and for some people there were valid fears that if these kinds of things should sail through, they might be the ones who pay the price. That it might not even be the women who are truly qualified, who ought to be there, that will be there. That it most likely will be those who are already benefiting from the system, who will now tend to put their wives and sisters and other people related or affiliated with them to benefit from this system already. So when we make these arguments, are we really putting our back to the work, apart from pushing for it at that level, but also ensuring that the people who rightfully ought to fill these positions, who need to be at the table, are the ones who really get their voices heard?
Well, I think you can say the same for men, right? Are they as much in touch with men at the grassroots? And so, yes, when you talk about elitism and whether or not it's elites that have a place around the table, I'm certainly not advocating for that. I said there are women who are in touch, and certainly some of the women in the National Assembly that I interact with, I believe, are very much in touch. They go back to their constituencies and to their people. I think we need both men and women to do that, certainly. But I think, you know, the experiences of women can best be expressed by women, you know. So you cannot deny a woman a seat at the table using the rationale that maybe she's an elite and so she doesn't actually have a connection to the grassroots. But can a male elite do that better than a woman elite? The idea is that when you know, we elect our representatives, we expect that they will stay in touch, and whether they're men or women, they should. But I think we're working in a context where we have so few women that in terms of the perspectives, the experience, the lived experiences of women that they can also provide expression to, that is being missed, and that is affecting the decisions that are made. We know around the world that parliaments that have more women actually focus on businesses that on the business of parliament addresses issues that are of relevance to women, whether it's education, whether it's health, and so on. So even climate change. So I think women bring a perspective that is really essential if we're really going to advance development overall, and that should not be missed. And I think, yes, we can tackle the issues of you know, the elitism and how you break that as another matter, but firstly, let's get women round the table, and let's get women across board from different sectors, as much as men too, because I think the diversity in the perspectives is what will actually move the country forward.
Let's take a break at this point and we're back to continue the conversation. Please stay with us. Well, some interesting, excuse me, some interesting information which you just read on our screens there, but I could give you a little more. That 70% of 1.3 billion people living in conditions of poverty are women. In urban households, 40% of the poorest households are headed by women. Women predominate in the world's food production, that's 50 to 80%, but they own less than 10% of the land. These are facts, realities, and these facts have been put out by the United Nations. For you, what policies would you say you have seen in Nigeria which truly address some of these realities in order to try and ensure that there is now a level playing field? Have you seen any at all?
Well, I mean, I think the policy that or the piece of legislation that we're all very happy to have seen in recent years has been the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, right? Which has now, I believe, been passed in over 30 states, particularly in the last 2 years. And that's addressing one particular challenge, which is the issues around gender-based violence, violence against women and girls. But even so, what we see as with most policies is that adopting the policy is just the first step, and then you've got to move to implementation of the policy, and oftentimes that's where we hit a roadblock. So I think it's not enough to just have a policy in place, but you need to put resources behind that. But violence against women and girls, as I said, the figures, the official statistics point to at least 1 in 3 women, and of course, when women's rights are violated, it affects their ability to access education or even livelihoods and so on. I know that in COVID-19, during the COVID-19 pandemic as well, we saw quite a lot of women-owned businesses collapse. And certainly, I think in terms of the fiscal stimulus policies, there's been a lot of focus on trying to ensure that women who have been affected and vulnerable women can actually recover. I think that is important. Of course, as with all things, one has to monitor how the resources, the fiscal stimulus packages are actually being dispersed so that the targeting of women and the most vulnerable households happen. So even there where you have a policy in place, one also has to ensure that efforts are put in place to monitor and target the support to women, because we know that the number of women in extreme poverty has increased widely in the last 2 years as a result of COVID-19 as well. So I think, yes, we have some policy measures in place. Of course, one policy that we've been also, as the UN, seeking to see support passage of is the Gender and Equal Opportunities Bill, which in December was stepped down in the Senate. And so we see that there is need for more efforts in terms of adopting policies that can provide a holistic and comprehensive response to the question of women's empowerment and gender equality. We believe that the Gender and Equal Opportunities Bill does that, because it also has affirmative action principles embedded in there. And then, of course, more recently, the constitutional review process with the bills, which, as we all know, were not accepted by the National Assembly. But those are some of the policy measures we still believe need to be adopted going forward.
Well, the constitutional amendment process is in full gear. We do not know if those bills can be considered again. We do not know that, but we do know that the Gender and Equal Opportunities Bill, which was stepped down, can be considered again because it wasn't thrown out. I think it was asked to be stepped down for more consideration, something to that effect. So perhaps all is not lost with the protest. Do you think that, perhaps if women had been more vocal before this vote went down at the National Assembly, do you think we might have been able to get more addressed? I know that there was a decision to go through a softer way, using soft power. The wife of the president was there when the report was laid, and then the day the vote was being considered, the wife of the vice president showed up. But do you think that if perhaps there had been maybe a march or something before that time, what we have seen after the vote was rejected, do you think that it might have made a difference?
Well, women were out there at the National Assembly on both occasions, when the wife of the president, the first lady, was there, and when the wife of the vice president. So they were out there in full force, making the case that it's important for these bills to be adopted. I think it's, marching, in a sense, I think it would be better if our legislators actually, see the value of these bills for the country.
Why
and that
is it
it doesn't
so
take women having to march.
Yes, but why do you think it's so difficult? Because when you look at it on the face value, and when you ask a host of them what is obtainable in their homes, the chances are very high that they educate both their boys and their girls equally. For those who hold these positions of power, their girls are very well educated. Their wives sometimes are PhD holders, they're professors. Why do you think it's very difficult for them to see the value in the bills that are brought forward?
Well, what was surprising, at least in the House of Representatives, I understood that, particularly the reserve seat or additional seats bill, that most of the legislators were co-sponsors.
Indeed, they were.
So when you're a co-sponsor, it means you're actually signed up to support the bill, but on the day of voting, we saw that many people who co-sponsored the bill didn't actually vote for the bill. Well, you say it's politics, but I think it's voting against the national interest as I see it, because, constitutional review processes don't happen every day, and they're once in a generation opportunity to really try to correct the legal framework in a way, or at least, make the environment more conducive for every citizen to realize their full rights before the law. And in this case, I believe it was a huge step back for the country, not just for women, for the country, because if we had embraced these bills, it's for this generation of women. It's for future generations of women and girls, and the implications and the impact would be huge, and it's such a shame. But as you said, I mean, I hope that there will be a way for us to see whether it's the Gender and Equal Opportunities Bill or the continuing advocacy of women. I know that today there is a march that women are also undertaking on International Women's Day to run the message home that this is not acceptable.
I can see you all dressed for that march.
Well, I am, and I'm going also for a football match for women for Women's Day. But yeah, it's and I actually salute the men in the National Assembly who actually voted for this bill, because I think it was a vote for the future, and it was a vote for the best interest of the country. As I said earlier, we need all hands on deck. In our part of the world, we can't afford not to have women participate in decision making, because the challenges we face are so many. And so for those men who were brave enough to vote for it, certainly we salute them, but we'll continue the work in terms of the advocacy going forward.
Just quickly, I know that my colleague, my sister in Lagos, Toyosi, was talking about how it's one special day for the women, and then afterwards it's back to regular programming. How do we ensure that this is sustained on the front burner, that the issues which women have raised, continue to be on the front burner, that people understand that this is about ensuring that, the one half of an entire population is just as well equipped and has as many equal opportunities as the other half of the population? How do we keep this on the front burner?
Well, I think that, the reaction and the response by women since last week, for me, has been very encouraging, because it almost seems as a call to action. Women have said, no, enough is enough. We have to do something. We can't use the softly approach. We really have to say, we are part of this country, and we are part of the decision-making, the efforts to try to move the country forward. I think building alliances is important, and I think building alliances with the youth, the young people in Nigeria, with the, this is not just about, it's not an issue that women alone have to champion. So we need to ensure that women are using this period to also build alliances with youth, build alliances with the labor movement, expand, build alliances with market women at the grassroots, as you were saying. That this call to action requires that over the coming period, strategic alliances are built so that women can continue to advance this work with progressive men, of course.
Certainly. I mean, it's always in partnership with progressive men, and if you don't support us, you certainly aren't a progressive man. So we have to thank you so much for coming on this morning. Comfort Lamptey is UN Women Country Representative to Nigeria and ECOWAS. Thank you so much for coming on Sunrise Early this morning.
Thank you very much.
And happy International Women's Day to you once more.
Thank you.
Well, over now to you, Toyosi. I'm sure that we will not be doing just one day. Hopefully, we'll be seeing you many more times in our studios. But over now to you, Ayo and Kayode.
Well, you know, that actually, Malkwe, is the leg to take this from, because talking about sustaining the conversation, you heard, you know, Madam Lamte speak there, but, correct, you know, part of where we kind of suspended the conversation earlier is how we sustain, you know, this whole campaign. And we talk about the various sectors. Yeah. You are in technology, for instance. How do we ensure that the lessons or the points of this International Women's Day 2022 is sustained for tomorrow as is intended? How can we sustain the pushing ideas and ideologies concerning women in technology, in politics, in education, in engineering, so that it's not just tokenism, as you said earlier?
I mean, the first thing I'd like to say is I listened to Madam Lamte, and, you know, I mean, that was a very brilliant contribution this morning. But I just want to say that in all of these, let's not forget that the impoverishment and the suppression of women is very intentional on the part of the people who do this, who perpetrate it. Because, and what I need them to know, whether they're men or women, because they're both men and women, is that an educated, a liberated woman is not a threat to any society. She's an asset. I mean, we've seen women transform societies. We've seen women run businesses successfully. We've seen the skills that are associated with women, like emotional intelligence, like, you know, empathy, come to the fore and, you know, build and transform institutions.
How do we coalesce those in the various sectors that you mentioned earlier?
Number one, I'd like to see, I wrote an article a few years ago, so many godfathers everywhere. Where are the godmothers? I'd like to see more intentionality on the part of established women
in the various professions.
In various professions. And we can't rule out the place of elitism, because I'm seeing a lot of men intentionally raising men, younger men and boys. When a governor is leaving office, is grooming another man who's going to take over from him. When an MD of a bank is leaving office, is grooming another one. We've seen a few great men like Tony Elumelu, you know, really contributing to I mean, the Dupe Olushola, Owen Omogiafo, who will lead the Transcorp, you know, Paminda, the female, you know, the woman who used to lead Tony Elumelu. We've seen a few he for she's. We've seen men coming out to really support women and demonstrate their belief in women. But we'd like to see, it will be interesting to see more women, you know, not just put their monies where their mouths are, but put their monies in being more intentional in. I want to see more girls run for office. And in running for office, I'm going to put 2 million naira down, because I want to see a woman win this election and come out on election day and canvass for votes for her. I mean, people say to me, oh, more women vote during elections. But I'm like, women vote for the people who are available on the ballot boxes. The political recruitment exercise in Nigeria needs to be completely fixed from, it's fundamentally faulty. A system where women, the most important role that is assigned to women is either being a women leader, or women are given Ankaras to wear so that they can dance during elections.
I think there was a case, I saw a man trying to run for women.
Do you understand? It's not enough. In some states, Commissioner for Women Affairs are men. One of the most poorly funded ministries in this country is the Ministry of Women Affairs.
You know, let's try to wind down on this part of it, Toyosi. I know this is a lot, and I don't want this to go back to regular programming. It's meant to be a conversation that we take on and on. But a lot of people look at you, women especially, and they say, I want to be like Toyosi.
Yes.
I mean, she's brilliant, the things she has done and all that. So as a way to round off on this conversation, I'd like you to look at those women and speak to them. Tell them, I don't know, perhaps from your experience, but encourage them. Tell them that, you know what, you don't let me tell you what to tell them, okay, but essentially encourage them, because I think, if anything, women need to be better appreciated, encouraged, and see them for who they really are, the strength. Someone was telling me that women are walking CEOs. I mean, what they do, men can't even come close.
On an average day, you know, in an average day,
on an average
job
day,
description.
okay.
I mean, I'll speak to an average girl out there. I mean, you're more than enough. You don't need to fit into the stereotypes of society to be defined as a success. You owe yourself education beyond the four walls of beyond the 4 walls of infrastructure. You owe yourself the right values so that when it is time for you to be given an opportunity at the table, you are not judged by the wrong choices that you've made. Knowing that society would always place raise the moral values higher for the women. Okay. You owe yourself, disruptive innovation, an ability to compete globally, knowing that with the way the world is, with internet and technology, you are in a global village where you have a little skill in a small village in Kwara, and you are competing with another data analyst or data scientist or artificial intelligence engineer in Palo Alto in California. I need girls to know that politics matters. Don't run away from politics. A single policy can destroy an entire nation's private sector. A single politics can take away an entire demographic of a country. Politics matters. Women need to do politics. I need rich women to know that it's not enough when you use your money to buy only Birkin bags. And you don't fix because you are building businesses that are going to be taken over by women who perhaps don't have, were not as prepared as you are or didn't have the equal opportunity. And finally, I need women to understand that it's not enough to be just a woman. I will never advocate for a woman to be made the president or be given a political position or be empowered with leadership just simply because she's a woman. I'd like to see women have more character, more capacity, more competence, so that when it's time to compete, put us on a level playing field. Okay. Put me right beside a man and give me the opportunity to compete on a level playing field. We'll see how good.
I can see that. I can see that. A single question can invoke a symposium.
Oh, goodness.
Thank you very much for being a part of this conversation this morning. And as Malkwe has said, it is a conversation starter. It is not
and the truth
the
is,
beginning and the ending.
Now, beans. One day you go down.
Okay.
Okay, we don't run out. Make we go.
Toyosi Akere-Legushiji is an edutech entrepreneur. Thank you so much for being a part of our conversation today. Well, Sunrise Daily is back after now. Please stay with us.
Well, that's what we're talking about now, the controversies within the APC. News came out yesterday that the previous acting national caretaker chairman, Mr. Governor Buni of Yobe State, had been removed, and that Governor Abubakar Bello of Niger State is now the new chairman. You heard him speak there when he was asked about what was happening with Governor Buni, and he said he's not aware of any position he currently occupies. Well, that was what broke yesterday. So there have been questions as to what happened. I have with me here 2 gentlemen, faces which by now you might be familiar with if you have been following the crisis within the APC. Aliyu Audu is the convener, APC Rebirth Movement, and Andrew Abu is a member of the All Progressives Congress. Gentlemen, good morning and welcome. This beautiful International Women's Day. Yeah. What is going on within your party? I mean, you have been shouting from the rooftops that evil forces were taking over your party and all was not well. Is all about to be well now?
Yes, I mean, we have reasons to have confidence that finally, I mean, it's taking a little while, but it's good we are back on track. You know, we have leadership, we've seen actions that we have reasons to, you know, believe in again. And members of the party have reasons to, you know, hold their heads, you know, high up. You know, like it's victory to our party, victory to democracy eventually. And
victory already? It's just a change. I mean, the convention has not been organized yet.
That change in itself, it's some sort of, you know, it's success. You know, we live in a society where it is almost seen as sinful to be able to stand up for what is right. You know, people think you have an agenda, you have a reason, you have a motive for standing up for what is right because it is no longer popular. You know, it might take a while, you know, but truth will always come out, and that's what has just happened. You know, you can't ride, you know, a huge number of people so wrongly, ride on them wrongly for such a long time. You know, the D-Day is going to come. And I mean, we're beginning to see that. We have reasons to believe that, you know, the right people in the party have, you know, woken up, and we are taking back our party from the hands of the evil forces who are hell-bent on destroying our party and destroying our nascent democracy.
Well, you were kinder to him earlier, Mr. Abu. You, I mean, you thought that it was a little hard to say that, you know, there were any evil forces in the first instance. They're all members of the same political party. But from the actions that have currently happened, that happened yesterday, maybe from Sunday up until yesterday, we know the president was supposed to go directly to London, but he came back home first. I think was as some surprise, for many people, and then later on went to London on Sunday. But it would look like this was already in the works before he left. So does it confirm for Mr. Audu, he says it confirms what he's been saying. For you, what would you say it says about your own stance? Would you say you're being far too kind to the detriment of your party?
Okay, yeah, so first of all, happy Women's Day.
Thank you.
So I don't know why there is this confusion, okay, especially as to what happened yesterday. What happened yesterday was nothing close to the news that is everywhere on the media, okay? Some persons have the opinion that the caretaker chairman, Mimala Buni, has been sacked and all of that. There is no communication to that. There's no statement that has been put out to back that claim. Now, what happened was the caretaker chairman is out of town. He traveled for medicals, out of the country, and there are activities put in place already that is being carried out by the caretaker committee. Now, for every time, it's just unfortunate that a lot of people don't know how this functions. For every time the caretaker chairman is not available, the governor of Niger State, Mohammed Bello, acts in his place. And that is exactly what happened yesterday. So I don't know why there are news everywhere saying that Mimala Buni has been sacked. There is no circular or no statement from the party that has been put out saying that categorically. So for now, I think... So
you think he's still the caretaker chairman of the APC?
Of course, he's the caretaker chairman.
That's Mimala Buni?
Yes, he is.
Perhaps we should play that back for you. I mean, because we all know right now the president has traveled. We know that the vice president is acting in his position.
Absolutely.
But we know that the president is still the president.
Absolutely.
When he comes back, he's going to be president.
Absolutely.
So when you say that he was away, he's on medical trip, and when he will soon be back, and every time he travels, the governor of Niger State acts on his behalf. I'm sure he would have said that.
He sits in.
Yes, but when he was asked categorically by journalists as to what has become of the position, he says, as far as he knows, he doesn't have any position.
No, I don't think that. I think I would want to let them play
that back, because
yes.
I was sure that was what I heard, that he's not aware that he occupies any position as we speak. Let us play that back, please. If our producers can help us out with that. Well, but while we wait for that, let me see if you have a counter position. He thinks that Mr. Governor Mimala Buni is still in position, and it's just because he's out of the country. Okay, hold on a second before you comment on it.
We right now received a report from the zoning committee headed by the governor of Kwara and the deputy senate president. We earlier on saw in the state party chairman, and at the same time we deliberated on progress made so far towards convention. And I think I'm satisfied with what has been done so far. Acting chairman of APC and governor of Niger State.
The chairman of the caretaker committee?
Caretaker committee, yes. Acting chairman, caretaker committee.
Okay, so what's the position of Buni this moment?
I'm not aware of any position at the moment. I know he has traveled.
So, I'm not aware, just a moment, I'm not aware of any position at the moment. I know he has traveled. That is an aside. I mean, I think further questioning. But he is not aware of any position at the moment.
So, that statement, I don't see any complication in it.
Okay, let me ask him. Do you see any complication in this statement, Mr. Audu?
I mean, you see, every individual has a right to want to be, morally upright or not. You can be in denial or not. I want to look at it like, imagine the Vice President, Yemi Osinbajo, who is the acting president now, is asked about the position of Mr. President. It will be clear and straight, isn't it? Just like the information Governor, Bakar Bello has just given.
Are you saying your colleague is in denial?
No, I'm saying certain part of the party, certain members of the party. He's a
member of the party.
But we have a number of people who haven't seen anything wrong in the party for the past 22 months. I mean, we have been at the forefront making noise about all of the wrong things. There are a lot of people who have called us names. A lot of people who look at us as if we are the bad ones, who accuse us of bringing our party issues on air as if it's a cult, as if it's a secret cult where we cannot, discuss happiness in our party when internal communications are all efforts to do this internally are being frustrated.
What I'm asking is a simple interpretation of this statement. I am not aware of any position at the moment. Your colleague thinks that is not a confirmation that Governor Maimala Buni has been sacked as an acting chairman of the caretaker committee of the APC.
Let me speak to, let me indulge him in that line by saying, if Governor Bello is acting on behalf of Governor Maimala Buni, that would have been a direct, transfer of power from Maimala Buni to him, right? Then it would have been difficult for him not to be able to, acknowledge that, this person is away and I'm acting on his behalf. The very fact that he said he is not aware of the position of this person says a lot. And that's the position where we're in. I mean, there's been a lot going on these days. He's been mandated to step in, and right the wrongs and give us the convention for the 26th in the right ways. Anybody can interpret whatever they see. I mean, I like to see my cup as half full. If you want to say that's half empty, it's yours. That's how it is. But for this, it's a positive development for my party, and for democracy and we look forward to great things happening and things actually happening in the right way between now and the convention. I mean, it's just a couple of hours and everything will be in the open.
Would you say that you're living in denial? Would you agree that you're living in denial?
It's laughable that anybody will say that I'll be living in denial. It's very clear. Now, the caretaker committee is a 13-man committee that have representatives from across, the divide of the political organ. Okay, now, at the end of the day, the NEC was the organ that came up with the caretaker committee. Now, if there is going to be any change of leadership in the caretaker, the NEC is going to sit and it will be communicated without any complication. Unfortunately, this is happening, and people are picking holes from or making statements from a response a governor gave. For me, he said, I don't know his position right now. All I know is that he has traveled. Okay? And they have had several meetings. Yesterday there were activities in the party. And because the chairman of the caretaker is not available doesn't mean activities are not going to go on. The 36...
Was it normal that the APC secretariat be cordoned off with police?
When there are activities, they send in security men to the party secretariat. It is a norm. It is a norm when there are activities. So yesterday, 36 state chairmen were inaugurated. Okay, just yesterday. Yesterday, the zoning committee submitted their report. Okay, so we had a retinue of activities in the party secretariat yesterday. Okay, and for me, I find it difficult to understand why, for something as heavy as sack of the caretaker chairman, is just from a statement that was made from an engagement, after a press conference, and everybody is running with that the caretaker chairman has been sacked. There is no evidence, there's no letter to that effect. The president or the spokesperson to the president have not come out to say that the caretaker chairman has been sacked. And in any case, if anything is going to happen about the caretaker committee, it's going to be a total sack of the caretaker committee. The 13-man caretaker committee is not going to be in isolation, because everybody on that committee is culpable if the party is progressing positively or negatively. Okay, so for me, I don't know why they are singling out the caretaker chairman, and saying that he's been sacked.
If you were
because even the governor of Niger State is also part of the caretaker committee, and a lot of people don't know that. He represents the North on the caretaker committee.
Not central. Not central.
The North Central on the caretaker committee, just the way the governor of Osun State represents the Northwest.
The Southwest.
The Southwest, sorry. You know, so there is no complication in that statement that was made because we've not seen an official communication to that effect.
Okay. You have to agree with him on that. Why do we have to do things secretly?
No,
I mean, if your party has sacked its caretaker chairman, shouldn't it release a statement to that effect?
Now, this is where I don't like to jump the gun, you know, but like we observe, you know, with caution and, you know, raise alarm where there is need to. I don't think anybody has said so far that Mai Mala Buni has been sacked as national chairman of the party. There are processes to these things, right? Like he rightly said, it has to be at the instance of a NEC. Someone has to call the NEC. You need to have a national chairman or acting national chairman to call for NEC meeting. So the first thing is to have a national chairman that will call for the NEC meeting. Now we have the national chairman in acting position in the person of Governor Bello, you know, of Niger State. So the next step is to what? We expect that there will be NEC meeting where decisions regarding the party will be taken. You know, so but at this point, what we have seen, you know, the change of, you know, guards at the what's it called, caretaker committee level, it's positive enough for us to go to town with. It's good. It means finally that people from the right quarters are listening and they are actually looking at some of these things that we have been talking about. Today's what? The 9th? Or the 8th?
There were questions as to how, you know, Governor Bello rose to becoming acting national chairman, whether you can just remove somebody and then elect another person or appoint another person acting national chairman. There were questions in that regard, but let me flip this to Lagos. I understand my colleagues have questions for you. Gentlemen.
Thank you, Malkwe. Let me begin with Mr. Abu. Part of the conversations, the arguments that your colleague has made is that at the end of the day, it's about leadership here, and that's where I would want you to start, you know, this conversation from. There's been attempts and counter attempts to organize a national convention for the party, and it would seem like that's been elusive for one reason or the other. Now, my question here is about the fact that successive administrations of the political party your political party, and maybe everyone, has had to do with leadership, the challenge of leadership, you know, from the very first up until the former Governor Adams Oshiomhole leadership to the Governor Buni as well. So I'm wondering, don't you see a problem that's beyond just the top guy as opposed to something that we just remove the one person at the top and expect that things are just going to go hunky-dory?
So there is absolutely no way you have a political party where you have people with different interests and you will not have problems here and there. And I keep saying this.
Are you agreeing that indeed interests get in the way?
As it stands, you know, and
did you hear me?
It's natural and normal that we have all this confusion here and there, you know.
You said interests, people with different interests. Are you saying that there are interests Absolutely. That get in the way of party administration, of the larger interests of the party?
Now, interest varies, okay? The point is, we have a date for a convention, okay? Regardless of all the problems here and there, we already have a date, it's 26th. The date has not come and passed, and nobody has communicated to the party members that 26th is not going to hold, okay? So for me, I think what we should be concerned about and what we should be discussing right now should be how is the convention going to take place?
But the dates have come and passed before.
What consensus are we planning to have?
Mr. Abu, the dates have come and gone before. If you can hear me, the dates have come and gone before. So doesn't that justify the concerns of those who are saying maybe there is something playing that is not, you know, known to everybody?
absolutely. And I've said it here on this set that because we have had this date shifted a couple of times, it has left a lot of people worried, and it has thrown a lot of people into a paranoid state. Okay, so and I understand
just
with a whole lot of people
on that matter, on that point that you have agreed, doesn't that then justify the concerns about the leadership of Governor Buni as the APC CEPCC chairman?
So, justifying the concerns does not negate the fact that there is a process to take out the caretaker chairman, okay? And we have not seen that process happen. So, for anything anybody is saying about the acting chairman or the ousting of the caretaker chairman is just based on assumption, okay? So, until we get an official communication to that effect, anything anybody is saying right now will just be saying it out of assumption or how you want it to be in your head.
Well, on that same matter, Mr. Abu, is that in any way saying that there is a banana peel for everyone who acts as chairman of APC?
Well, I think leadership comes with its challenges, you know, and I don't think this is different, okay? So it will be very difficult for you to please all parties, and this is what is happening, you know. And this is not to justify all the confusion or the issues or challenges we have at the moment in the party, okay. But I know that for where stakes are high, there will always be issues like this, and we'll overcome it, you know. We'll overcome it.
Okay, let me take this to Mr. Audu now. It would seem that even within the APC there is more confusion as to what's going on than in the general public, because right there within your party, opinions are diverse, especially with this latest twist of events. But if indeed, I mean, your point, your opinion about, well, Governor Buni being out and Governor Bello being in as the acting chairman, that would imply that the governors, the APC governors, are against Governor Buni. Is that a possibility you have considered, and do you think that is true?
You see, I think it's about time we shift away from making this about individuals instead of making it about issues. You know, like my friend here said, we should have had this convention long ago. They have shifted it and shifted it and shifted it again. Anyone who is concerned about the state of the party would be concerned. Be you ordinary member, senator, rep member, or governor. I mean, you will not be honest with yourself if you really want what is right for this party and not be concerned over this. And time again, the governor Mai Malabuni has shown that him and his caretaker committee, you know, are not in sync. We have seen communication from the caretaker committee that other than him and the secretary, every other member of the caretaker committee, you know, find as strange as, you know, even other members or even the public. I mean, it's been a show of Mai Malabuni and the secretary for a larger part of their 22 months or 23 months in charge. He's not been able to carry his committee. So you understand that naturally, we are not going to sack the entire committee. You know, nobody's asking if it's even saying Mai Malabuni has been sacked. But what we are clearly saying is we have like about 2 weeks to the convention and we have not started sales of form. There are a lot of other things that should have been done that we're not doing. I mean, for many members who are not sure, you know, as far as Mai Malabuni keeps, you know, being the acting chairman, a lot of us won't have faith that 26th of March will be sacrosanct. So the change of guards, you know, at that level has, you know, restored some level of hope in us that, yes,
Mr. Audu,
you know, the right thing is about to be done.
You're not speaking to that question I asked. Yes, I understand that the convention is 18 days away, and that's a major one. But we need to fully understand what's at play here, and perhaps you can give more insight. So again, I ask, if indeed he's been removed, that would imply that the governors, in fact, let me even add, the president, are not exactly on the same page with the way he's running the party. Do you agree with that?
The president has made it clear time and time again that he isn't on the same page. I mean, you remember clearly it was public. It was in public when Mr. President, one, that at this rate, we might just be making ways for the opposition to take over the government. I mean, that's a sign, that's a confirmation of him not being happy with the way things are being run. This isn't necessarily about the governors being unhappy with Mai Malabuni. Nobody should be happy with the way things are going at the moment. And, you know, if an action is being taken to right all of these wrongs that we have, you know, shouted about, then it's something we embrace and we welcome. And you know, it's about time, you know, we bring back that hope that the members have. It's not about the governors being against Mai Malabuni. It's not about him losing. It's about everybody finally realizing that we are fast running out of time to do the right thing. And, you know, we have finally decided to do the right thing because what we have, what it takes to do the right thing as a party. And all of this, in the next couple of hours, you know, most of this uncertainty will be made clear, and, you know, everybody will see what direction we're heading as a party.
Well, certainly. It's been also reported that Governor Buni has been says he will come back to office today or something like that. I think I saw that on one of the dailies. But Mr. Abu, let me just ask you, because clearly you don't believe that, well, he's out of office. You still think that he's in office. But help us understand this. We listened to Governor Bello yet again, just to be clear what he said, since you interpreted it in a particular way. Why would he say that he does not know the position of Governor Buni as at that period? Why would Governor Bello say that?
I think in the context that he said what he said, I don't think that position, the statement position, in the context of what he said, had to do with the position of the seat of the caretaker chairman, you know. So, but at the end of the day, you know,
so what does it have to do with?
From a statement, you can have.
Mr. Abu, what do you think it has to do with?
Over
his geographical position, or what position do you think he thought was being asked him?
So for me, I clearly know that it did not have anything to do with, you know, the position of the caretaker chairman, Governor Mai Malabuni, okay? So, I mean, he was asked a question. And like I keep saying, let's even forget
So I just want to be clear. What position do you think he was being asked about?
At the end of the day,
Mr.
is there a communication?
Before you move on, what position do you think he was being asked about? If not, I mean, they were at the APC secretariat. They were talking about the leadership of the party. In fact, they just asked him what position, you know, he was acting on. So what position do you think they were asking him about Governor Buni?
So he said he doesn't know what position he is. That all he knows is that the governor has traveled. Okay, and you see, most times people ask questions mischievously so that you give a response that just throws everybody into confusion. Okay?
No, you give.
But I will keep standing.
Mr. Abu, you give the right response.
There has not been.
So if I'm being asked, pardon me, Mr. Abu, if I'm being asked that, I mean, what position are you on this show? I wouldn't say I don't know. I'll be honest and say you're a guest, and we're grateful you joined us. If I'm asked what position is Mr. Audu, I say he's a guest. If I'm asked what position is Mapwe, I say she's my colleague, a co-anchor on Sunrise Daily. I wouldn't say I don't know. I mean, I would say the truth. So again, why would he say that if indeed, you know, he's he's still in power?
So at the end of the day, Governor Bello has not said, in his statement, he has not said that the caretaker chairman, Mai Malabuni, has been sacked. Okay? So, except somebody pulls out a tape and tell me that, and we hear him on record, on camera, saying that the governor of Yobe State, who is the caretaker chairman, has been sacked. You know, he has not categorically said that, and there has not been an official communication to that effect. So whatever we are saying right now is just based on assumption. Okay, and for me, I don't think the media house should even be encouraging those kind of things, because there should be an official communication to, if a person of a caretaker chairman as high as a governor who is acting or who is piloting the affairs of the leading party, I mean, there should be an official communication to that effect, and it should come from the neck.
Well, we'll see how that eventually pans out. It's early days yet. There is still some controversy. Even the papers had on the front pages this morning confusion in APC. Some people are clear. Others are still saying, no, there needs to be a clear-cut communication as to the status of Governor May Malabuni, who, up until yesterday, at least from what we know, was the caretaker chairman of the APC caretaker committee. Well, gentlemen, we will see how things eventually pan out. We have to thank you both for coming on Sunrise Elite this morning. Aliyu Audu is the convener, APC Rebirth Movement, and Andrew Abu is a member of the All Progressives Congress. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Well, just to update you or to fill you in on the fact that protesters are trickling in preparation for the 1 million women march at the National Assembly. Our correspondent, Kayla Megwa, who is currently on the ground, says that the gate to National Assembly is currently locked, but some women have been seen around waiting for the protest to start. They certainly mean business. Yeah, those are the pictures you can see right there. We urge you to stay with us here on Channels Television as we bring you the details when we have them. They certainly mean, look at that. I mean, the women are already all set. As soon as those gates are open, I believe that the protest will start in earnest. But they're already gathering. That's information we have. And waiting for that 1 million women march to the National Assembly to start. Well, we also have feedback from you as we wrap up this morning, and this first one is from Festus Akimboiwa. It's a tweet. He said, APC is a house against itself, and it's doubtful if it can ever stand if they don't stick together for the good of the party. It's shameful that a ruling party can be so disunited. That's the standpoint of Festus Akimboiwa.
Well, Dixon is talking about International Women's Day, and via a mail, gender balance enhances healthy competition. Rather than looking for free meals or special seats at National Assembly to create confusion in our constitution, we should legislate on ensuring that women are given equal opportunities as the men. Same education, same job opportunities, same ranking, including military and paramilitary and other aspects of human endeavors. Early marriage, street hawking by school-age girls, denial of job opportunities and promotion should be criminalized. Happy International Women's Day, he concludes.
Well, take a look at this tweet from Law Alpha C2, or Law Alpha C2, saying Nigerian women have capacity and natural talent, except that many of them are still very ignorant and unconcerned about the goings-on in the polity and contributions to make to restore sanity and engender growth.
Olagunjo Oladele says women need representation in all technology. We are all different, but we need diversity of thoughts. And we don't have it when people of one gender with the same education and cultural background make tools without factoring in gender perception.
Professor Enakina says, for a sustainable future for women, we must eradicate gender-based economic and political disadvantages against our women, like guaranteeing equal advantages for women to have access to fund to participate in economic enterprises and political participation.
Oh, we'll just take one more
and
from
Trinity has...
Mark, go ahead. It's International Women's Day, please.
I was going to go ahead anyway, but thank you, the kindest gentleman I work with. The advocacy should be for women to support their fellow women when they contest elections. A lot of women contest elections but don't win, even when women claim to be more in number than women. A happy Women's Day. Well, as I did say earlier, women certainly mean business today, and the progressives, that's the progressive men can join us. If you are he for she, a true he for she, and we've seen so many on this program, be with us at the protest. Well, be with us, yes, us. I will not be there physically, but I'm with them in spirit. To march, to press home the point that we do need a more equal world. It benefits all of us in the end. Thank you so much for watching this morning, and happy International Women's Day to all women out there. Thank you for watching once more. I'm Malkwe Ogun Yusuf.
Well, an educated woman is not a threat but an asset. I'm Kayode Okikiolu.
Have a wonderful day. I'm Ayo Makinde.